Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today is the 24th of October 2021. Local time is about 15:46 hours. Thanks for tuning in. This video, such as it is all about the tragic fatal shooting on an American film shoot. Obviously, it's right as of today, it's still all over the papers. Apparently, the shooting took place last Thursday. Today is Sunday, but it's still resonating all over, certainly UK newspapers, and it's all over the internet, as you're probably already aware. So this is just my 5 pennyworth. Certainly, in my younger days, when I did a lot of travelling as a youth, I ended up in some place in India, and some guy handed me a gun. Oh no, there was a gun on the table. It's a long time ago. I can't remember all the details, but even then, as an untrained youth, somebody handed me. Well, there was a gun. There must have been about 10 people sat around the table. A gun appeared, and I immediately just said, "Give me the gun." And they gave me the gun, and the first thing I did was broke it open and checked the chamber. That was the first thing I did. Now that's just an immature druggie on the hippie trail, and fortunately for us, the gun was unloaded, and that defused the situation. So that's just my own experience of guns. I'm not a gunny. I know nothing about guns, but I knew enough then just to make sure there was no live ammo in the thing. So that's my own very limited experience. Certainly all the chat is there's guns are extremely dangerous pieces of equipment to be treated with extreme caution. They are life and death. Guns are life and death. It is the responsibility. The driver is always responsible for the vehicle when it comes to driving. Then whoever is handling the weapon is responsible for the weapon. It would seem to me. This is going to go on for a long time. There's a lot of points of view out here. In some areas, feelings are running quite high. Look at me. I felt constrained to make a video about the whole thing. But apparently, what for me is the most disturbing aspect of the whole thing, or one of the most disturbing aspects, I should say. There's a lot of disturbing aspects here, but it is alleged that there were 3 accidental, if there is such a term, 3 discharges. Well, I won't even colour it. I won't use the word accidental. It is alleged that there were 3 discharges of weapons on the film site prior to the fatal shooting. Now, obviously, I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm not in authority. But this is what certainly some of the UK newspapers are alleging. I think the Times newspaper here in the UK says it's had a text where this kind of information was delivered about 3 discharges of weapons. Now, I can't speak for any other country in the world, but here in the UK, even in the UK, standards are dropping. They're plummeting. But at one stage here in the UK, people used to take the mickey out of the UK for health and safety and political correctness gone wild. Which I was one of the critics of health and safety and political correctness gone wild. But having said that, I'd rather have, certainly health and safety than somebody going home dead at the end of the day. That was the whole purpose behind health and safety. Now, in the UK, we have a system that's called a near miss. And near misses are supposed to be reported. And the whole theory behind the near miss is if we get enough near misses reported and an action taken on the near miss, then that will prevent something tragic happening. Now, supposing in America, I don't know whether the Americans have a similar thing in America. I just don't know. But here in the UK, we have the near miss system. And some companies do, to be fair, do encourage you to report a near miss. Other companies, I mean, it is a lot of paperwork, and better have somebody dead, it would seem, half the time, than, God forbid, fill out the paperwork. But look at the paperwork you've got to fill out now that somebody's dead. So perhaps the near miss system has something to be said for it, even though it does engender the making of paperwork. Now, so if the near miss system had been in place in America, if they were following procedure, which is a big if, but if they were following procedure, after one discharge, accidental, deliberate, whatever, we just don't know, so all we can say with any degree of certainty that there was a discharge. Well, allegedly there were 3 discharges of weapons. After the first one, a near miss should have been reported, or certainly under the UK system. Right, we've had a discharge of a weapon which is basically unauthorised and shouldn't have happened. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, so the near miss, all the paperwork gets filled in, procedures get modified or whatever, everything gets looked into, especially with the possibility of a near fatal accident, whatever you want to call it. And the near miss would have then prevented it, or should have prevented it from happening. So here is an example, perhaps, of the importance of the near miss and how absolutely crucially important it is to report these things. And then not to allocate blame. I mean, there does seem to be a lot of blame around these days, but ultimately the idea used to be to prevent things like this happening. You get enough sufficient near misses on a subject, action is taken on the basis of the near miss, thus preventing a tragic, lethal accident. That's the theory. Apparently, according to all the newspaper comments, there's no such thing as an unloaded weapon. You always check it. You certainly never point a gun at anybody. If there were 3 people involved in the handling of that weapon, each person should have checked that it was, in actual fact, not loaded. Apparently, according to one newspaper, a prop gun is just a gun. It's still a gun. It's a lethal weapon. It is, the newspapers, which is the mainstream media, trying to defuse it to a certain degree, but a prop gun is a gun. It's still a gun, capable of killing. They called it a prop gun because you think it might be a fake gun. It is, apparently, according to some people who have made on the comment section in some of the newspapers, a prop gun is still a gun. And then you see, the first thing you do, somebody hands you a weapon, you're responsible for the weapon, and you never point it at anybody anyway, but the first thing you do, if somebody puts a weapon in your hand, the first thing you do is break it open, whatever. You check that the barrel is empty, or you check that there is no live ammo, or even a blank ammo for that matter. You check there's no ammunition in that weapon. And then you still don't point it at anybody anyway. So, this is my 5 penny worth. It's dreadful. Apparently they have somebody called an armourer on a film set, and this young woman was the armourer, and she said she didn't know much about it. Well, they're giving a job of armourer to a 24-year-old person who is self-proclaimed doesn't know much about it. Well, it is a position it's life and death. Weapons are life and death. It's a tragic situation. We must all assume that, there is no deliberate act here. It's still a tragic accident. But the armourer should have checked. Apparently, I don't know anything about films. I've never been involved in a film, probably never will. But the armourer apparently should have checked. Whoever picks up the gun. So if I understand the chain of command, the armourer put the loaded weapon, a loaded weapon. If the armourer is responsible for all of the weapons on the film set, Then the armourer apparently then must have placed a loaded weapon on the trolley. So there's number one person, the armourer. The armourer should have checked that it was in fact empty. Number two is some other guy in the film set then picked the gun off the trolley and gave it to the actor. Number two, now he apparently or allegedly called cold gun, but he had obviously not checked it because the weapon was not a cold gun. So the armourer didn't check it. Whoever the second guy was, he didn't check it and then gave out false information concerning, the status of the weapon. And then finally the actor gets the gun, assumes that it was unloaded and points it at someone. I mean, this is America, where, we don't have any dealings with weapons over here. Well, not many of us do. I certainly don't know nothing about weapons. But apparently in America, surely in America, the first thing you do, you break the weapon open. Is it loaded? And even when it's not loaded, it is de rigueur. You don't point weapons at anybody. You always, apparently, you keep the weapon pointed down, you keep the muzzle down. So, and then on and on and on it goes, because the actor who did the shooting, turns out to be a lefty and anti-guns. And on and on and on it goes. So, God have mercy on all of us is all I can say when things like this happen. God have mercy on all of us. So I'll leave it there. Any comments are welcome as always. Thank you for tuning in. Please keep it clean. Like I say, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, hit like if you like it, hit dislike if you dislike it, and so on and so forth. Everybody knows the drill these days. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.